This week on Shabbat, we're going to start the book of Numbers. And we begin the book of Numbers with the first Torah portion in that book. It's called Bamidbar. It's called In the Desert. And what do we read? We read about the Jewish people beginning their journey beyond Mount Sinai. We have come out of Egypt. We have been redeemed by God. We followed God into the desert. We traveled to Mount Sinai. We received the Torah from God on Mount Sinai. And then we had the whole debacle of the golden calf. The Jewish people build a mishkan, they build a tabernacle, they built it exactly as God required. It was perfected. God's presence came down onto this mishkan, and the Torah that we received goes into the Holy of Holies, into the Holy Ark, and the Jewish people are on the cusp of moving beyond Mount Sinai towards the land of Israel. So in the synagogues on Shabbat, we're going to read the story of the Jewish people encamping around the Mishkan, around the tabernacle, ready for their journey towards the holy land of Israel. The next day, on the holiday of Shavuos, we're going to go back and we're going to learn about the giving of the Torah to the Jewish people on Mount Sinai. So it's a little bit reverse order. We're reading about the leaving of Mount Sinai on Shabbos, and then on Sunday, the holiday of Shavuos, we're going to go back on chronologically and read about the giving of the Torah. So what's interesting, and I heard this from Michal Horowitz, is that as we journey forth forward in our lives, we take with us what we've learnt from before. We take our wisdom, we take our experiences, and we integrate them into ourselves, and then we take them with us. So too, the Jewish people have received the Torah, but the Torah needs to be integrated into who we are. We need to accept it. We need to learn it. We need to toil it. We need to understand it. We need to have some relationship with it, because the Torah is our guidebook to how to have a meaningful life in relationship to God. The Torah is our book of life. It is our tree of life. And so when the Jewish people were encamped around the Mishkan, which housed the Torah, which also was the place from which God spoke to the Jewish people, when we put that at the center of who we are, then we're lining things up. Then we're recognizing what is crucial, what is the core of who we are as a Jewish people is the Torah, and the Torah as a conduit to having a relationship with God. That is who we are as Jewish people. And it's interesting that it was given in the desert. It was given on a lowly mountain on Mount Sinai in the desert. The desert's a place of barrenness, a silence, of isolation, of there being no distraction, so we could listen to the voice of God, so that we could minimize our egos. We could be in a place of barrenness where we're not distracted by the goings on of the world, and we're quiet, and we can have that beginning of who we are as a Jewish people in the desert, which is equally accessible to everybody. And that is a secret of the Torah, that it's not just for the scholars and it's not just for the learned, it's for everybody, that everybody has equal access to the Torah. It was given in the desert to indicate that to us, that the desert is a place where everybody has access to, and so too the Torah is accessible to everybody. So the Jewish people were encamped around this Mishkan, and we read about that in this week's Torah portion, about the way in which the 12 sons of Jacob, representing the leaders of each tribe, so each tribe had its own camp around the central Mishkan, and each tribe, each camp had its own flag. It had its own color, its own emblem, its own prints, that each tribe had a certain energy, a certain relationship to the world, a certain way of being that was unique to that tribe. So the tribe of Dan had a different energy and a different mission in the world than the tribe of Naphtali, and so on. And so too, we individual Jewish people have our own, so to speak, our own banner, our own flag, our own color, our own energies, our own gifts, our own kochos, such that each one of us, as God describes the Jewish people, each one of us is a star shining light. We have each one of us a potential to shine a unique light out into the world. Each one of us is a star. And in this week's Torah portion, when the Jewish people are counted once again, they're counted by their names representing the essence of who we are. So we're not counted as numbers, we're counted as names, because that is intrinsically who we are, and our name is a manifestation or a reflection of the essence of what it is that we bring into the world. So we are stars, we are individuals, we have our own unique relationship with God and with Torah. And we're part of a collective. We're part of one Jewish people. Like the sand on the seashore, God promises Abraham that his descendants will be as numerous as the sand on the seashore, meaning that we're part of something much bigger than ourselves. Yes, we're stars, but we're also particles of sand on the seashore, meaning that we're part of something much bigger. We're part of a historical Jewish people that came from somewhere, is going somewhere, and we're part of something much bigger than ourselves, and we belong in that collective. So we have that paradox of, on the one hand, we're stars and we're individuals and we shine our unique light, and we're part of a collective. We're part of the bigger entity that is the Jewish people, represented by the sand on the seashore. So the Jewish people move forth from Mount Sinai, and they take with them the Mishkan. They take with them Torah, which is the center of who they are. It is how we become a Jewish people, is our relationship to God through the Torah. And so too, throughout history, the Jewish people have maintained their uniqueness because of the relationship to the Torah, right? We've been through persecutions, we've been through many, many exiles, but what kept us together and what glued us together is the Torah and a relationship to God through that Torah. So as we move through our lives, as we are an admixture of star and sand, as we travel, we also have periods of encampment. And the Jewish people, when they were moving towards the land of Israel and they journeyed forth from Mount Sinai, which is what we're beginning in the book of Bamidbar, in the book of Numbers, as they journey forth from Mount Sinai, we learn that they have 42 encampments on their way to the land of Israel, meaning that they traveled and then they set down shop. They they set up the Mishkan and they lived there until it was time to move on again. And they journeyed and encamped 42 times. And so too, we, the Jewish people, we individuals, are on a journey. We journey and we move and we go and we learn and we experience life. And then we have moments and times when we need to take stock and we need to contemplate and we need to camp and we need to rest and we need to reflect and we need to integrate all that we've learned as we've gone on that journey. So too, the Jewish people had journeys following encampments. So too, we as individuals and as a people have times of growth and times of movement and times of being very busy out in the world, and then times of rest and times of quiet and times of solitude and times of reflection and times of taking stock. And what's interesting, I learned that if you take the Jewish calendar, the whole year of a Jewish calendar, and you add up every single Shabbat, every single Rosh Chodesh, new month, the day of the new month, and you add up all the Jewish holidays, we end up with 1/5 of our calendar are holiday days, are days where we almost transcend the natural order and we live in a transcendent realm. We live in a more spiritual realm. We live in a realm where we're more attached to the divine, where we concentrate on that relationship. 1/5 of the Jewish calendar are holidays. Holidays are holy days of us to take stock. So when the Jewish people were marching forth and they camped and they marched and they camped and they moved and they camped, so too we go and we do, and we're busy and we're going and we're doing and we're acting and we're bringing our light into the world as the star, and we're also taking moments and time to stop and to reflect and to take stock and to see who we are and reflect and integrate it. So too, this week, when we read in Bamidbar, in the book of Numbers, we read about the Jewish people moving forth from Sinai. And then the next day we read about the receiving of the Torah, which happened earlier, which happened chronologically earlier. So too, we take the lessons of our marching, the lessons of our lives, and we integrate it into our as we take it forward into the future. So each one of us has a job to do. Each one of us has moments of traveling and camping. Each one of us is a mixture of stars and sand. Each one of us has a unique relationship to God and to the Torah. And that all happens in the desert. In our Torah, it all happens in the desert, in a place of solitude, a place where we've minimized our ego, that the minimization of ego is what allows us to receive the Torah, receive the wisdom from outside. And my blessing to all of us is that we become like the Midbar. We become the people who can receive the Torah, who can have a relationship with the Torah, and therefore have this unique relationship with God that the Jewish people are tasked with, so that we can shine godly light into the world.